Welcome to We Are Washington. Art and history, you can find it almost anywhere you look inside the district. There's no shortage of places to explore and culture to experience. But now there's a space where people are going to create the art and to feel the history.
It's called Dupont Underground. And to walk down the old stairwells into the recently unshuttered tunnels that expand throughout the Dupont Circle neighborhood is to experience a part of DC history. What is it about this space that has people interested in being a part of its reemergence as a social space? We go behind the scenes and underground to find out. Every day, thousands of locals as well as tourists in the know flock to Dupont Circle, paying visit to dozens of businesses, bistros, and culture alive here in Northwest Washington, D.C. Below the well-known traffic center lives history, almost completely untouched by those traveling through Dupont Circle each day. This is Dupont Underground, a multidisciplinary art space built on the concept of breaking the mold around creative expression. Today, patrons are reserving tickets to tour the cavernous tunnels.
The space has been closed since the early 60s, so this is literally the first time the public has really been able to come and experience not only the space, but an art installation.
This interactive display, known as Rays, brought in art enthusiasts for Dupont Underground's inaugural exhibit. But more than 65 years ago, people traveled here for a very different purpose.
When I saw all the old abandoned stairways, I recognized them as leading to something, but what, it was not clear.
What they led to were 75,000 square feet of boarded up streetcar tunnels, once alive with the activity of commuters coming and going. Originally opening following construction in 1949, DC streetcars would service the area beneath Dupont Circle for nearly 13 years before they were replaced by buses as a means of public transportation in 1962.
There are a lot of challenges with this space. I mean, for one thing, the space itself was dirty when we got here. So just cleaning the space was a huge endeavor.
Decades of dust and dirt doesn't mean the tunnels have been dark since the last streetcars dropped off passengers on these platforms. Other commercial ventures, such as a food court, have tried using this space.
It has strengths for arts programming that would be considered weaknesses in the commercial world. Its undergroundness is really a problem for commercial enterprises.
It seemed to us relatively easy to foresee or imagine the space as a public space for events and exhibitions, where a lot of people come, but they don't stay very long, and they leave.
So that's exactly how Dupont Underground is designed, an arts playground, emphasizing its raw industrial features.
This space just taps into that, I think, in a way that that a classic white wall gallery does not. And Washington honestly has a lot of great white wall galleries, but it does not have the kind of space that is going to play a character in the art.
We're not called the underground by accident, and it's not just a physical fact. It's also a, which I call it, a kind of philosophical approach.
Embracing that philosophy, Dupont Underground began creating an interactive art exhibit outside the mainstream approach for people to create and recreate during each visit.
We were super excited to have the first group come down. It was at the same time exciting and terrifying. There was no electricity. The space had an air of decay to it, industrial decay, but decay nonetheless. It was fascinating. It was like walking into a tomb.
Volunteers were eager to explore the underground tunnels, as well as have a hand in bringing the art exhibit Rays to life.
It's incredible to see it all done. When we first came down to volunteer, there were just infinite boxes full of balls that needed to be turned into these amazing cubes. And I thought it was an incredible piece of DC history to come down here and see this abandoned streetcar station.
Pieces of Rays may even look familiar. A large donation from another DC art institution's interactive beach exhibit got Dupont Underground off the ground. They used 650,000 of these individual balls from the National Building Museum in their exhibit, and a lot of hot glue to build the foundation for this new art exhibit. For many art fans, these abandoned tunnels have become a destination, not just for exhibits present and future, but for exploration of a piece of DC's history.
Dupont Circle itself is a gateway from the great tourism of the mall into the city. This is a gateway into the city. So the idea was to reinforce the character of a destination here in Dupont Circle.
A destination which Julian Hunt and his team say they will continue to make vibrant and dynamic for those willing to explore this subterranean social space.
Film screenings, performances, things of that nature that can have pretty quick production times and turnarounds. That is all on the table, and we're sort of we have a lot of people in different disciplines with their eyes on this space.
And with its allure anchored in DC history, possibly a space that can help move the district forward.
We'd like to allow a kind of more free-form space where people can rethink what the city will become. The district, as an evolving entity, as a growing city, that there are lots of ways to continue to improve its social functions and its public space where the city gets to know itself.
Great piece, and it looks like you got a souvenir.
I did. They have 650,000 of these.
So why not take one?
So they had a few extra
They're not
boxes. They gave it to me. It was a souvenir for my trip out that day. But yeah, very interesting. Really weird when you walk down into those tunnels. You expect it to be, to have this feel of an art space, this feel of a renovated space. It was still very industrial and raw, and it smelled like an old train tunnel.
Hard to get rid of that smell, and it's so fascinating to me because I remember when they had a food court down there, and that was, I think, back in the 90s.
Right.
And that never really took off in the way that people had hoped. So it's great to see that now they've established something else.
One of the things the founder said, which was it didn't really work as a space for food because people wouldn't really want to go down there to enjoy food or to eat or spend any amount of time down there. So they think it's going to work better as an art space.
Coming up, Washington's restaurant scene is hailed by foodies worldwide.
And cellist Yo-Yo Ma gives back in a big way to a local school.
Welcome back to We Are Washington, and we're here at the beautiful El Camino Restaurant, which is one of the city's great spots for authentic Mexican food, which you can see here.
Absolutely. And we're talking about the restaurant scene in DC today, so who better to talk to than Kathy Hollinger, the Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Kathy, obviously the city has changed so much. All of us residents have just seen such a sea change. How has the restaurant scene evolved?
I mean, over the last 5 years, I would say really even fewer in terms of fast-paced growth, we've just been seeing amazing creative concepts pop up all across our neighborhoods in the city. So for the diner, which I believe they have a much more sophisticated palette today than probably ever, they have tremendous options in every neighborhood.
And there are so many neighborhoods and so many different parts of DC. What are some of the trends that you're seeing emerge in restaurants, in the way people eat, things like that across DC?
Well, I think what makes us really unique first and foremost is that in our industry, we're about 96% independently operated, which really gives so much creative momentum for the chefs and for the operators to try out new cuisines and new concepts. But in terms of trending, we're seeing a lot more focus on local, whether it's wine or spirits or cheeses or chocolate or coffee. And we're also seeing a really big surge in new Asian-inspired concepts, running the gamut from food from the Philippines, Korea. It's just really interesting. It's been a lot, and you see it across all of our neighborhoods.
And for people who are not familiar with the Restaurant Association, tell me how you view your role in supporting the local restaurant scene here in the district.
Yes, I see myself and the association, we're really the advocate for the small business operator. So we represent restaurant owners, operators, and food service distributors and providers, really representing food service across the region. But we're an advocate from the standpoint of making sure that their best business interests are represented as a small business owner, but also to make sure that we're creating really creative programming to get people into their restaurants, whether it's through Restaurant Week or Wine Week, Cocktail Week. It's really trying to find what we call the butts and seats programming to get people out and try all that's great about dining in DC.
So DC emerging more and more as a restaurant city. There's some notable names out there who are taking taking notice of that as well. You want to tell me a little bit about that?
We've had a great year in terms of accolades nationally. We've had Bon Appetit, who named us Best Restaurant City of the Year.
That's amazing.
Which is terrific. Zagat, which named us the hottest restaurant city of the year. And we also had the Michelin Guide that came to Washington and rolled out last fall, which in itself brings a lot of notoriety and recognition to the city internationally. So it was really an exciting year for Washington, D.C.
So you guys are really doing your job. I mean, look.
I think
you're doing your part.
Right.
And obviously the fabulous food doesn't hurt also.
Yeah.
And tell me, I think that you mentioned Restaurant Week, and I guess that's just the most fabulous way for us residents to really be able to get out there and try some things. For people who are not familiar with Restaurant Week, tell me about it.
Yeah, so Restaurant Week is offered 2 times a year, once in the winter and once in the summer, and it really attracts a different base. So in the winter, it's really catering to the regional diner to get them out of their homes after the holidays and spend a little bit of money in these great restaurants, but at a really, really affordable price point. So we try to create a promotion that gets people out at an affordable price at over 250 restaurants in the DC area. Summer, it's really tailored at aiming towards people that are coming into the city in addition to the regional diners. So they're just great ways to try all of these new places that are either new or up and coming, or the amazing established restaurants that really created the scene here in DC.
Right, and I mean, I know personally I love Restaurant Week because you can try so many different things that you might not normally go out and try on a regular weekend or weekday. But what sort of feedback do you hear from restaurant owners, restaurant workers, things like that about Restaurant Week?
That's a very good question because we ask that often, especially in the last year or two. We hear that it is an opportunity for the restaurant owner and the chef to really put their best foot forward and to bring in people who may otherwise have not tried their restaurant, but also to that loyal patron to get them back out and thank them for all of the support that they have provided to that restaurant. On the consumer side, we get a lot of feedback around the deals and the price point and what they would like to see that may be new or different. This year, one thing that we're doing that's new is we're offering brunch as one of the items on
my
the
favorite meal,
restaurant.
brunch, because you can eat anything.
That's right. And we heard it from both sides, and we implemented it this year. So that's been very exciting.
That's wonderful. So for all of you watching, just know that you are living in one of the hottest restaurant cities in the country.
Coming up next, a music icon performs at Bunker Hill Elementary. It's a day students and teachers at Bunker Hill Elementary School won't soon forget. World-class musicians cellist Yo-Yo Ma and violinist Joshua Bell spent the day at their school practicing with the orchestra and performing alongside the young musicians, all a part of an inspiring program aimed at helping struggling schools called Turnaround Arts. Take a look.
Practice this at home? Yes. That's very good.
Today's experience here at Bunker Hill just demonstrates all the good things going on in DC public schools, especially with the arts. To have Yo-Yo Ma committed to the Turnaround Arts Project here at Bunker Hill is an incredible experience for these young people and fostering them a love of learning and a love of school.
Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you.
What I like about music class is I get to express myself. It's a special opportunity to have them there that they chose this school out of hundreds of our nation. What's special about having these musicians here is that we get to play with them and we might actually get a shot to be famous too.
It was absolutely stupendous. Such a work of imagination of the teachers, of the principal, obviously the parents and the students. I mean, coming together, building trust, having a great time, learning a ton with respect, with fun. One of the things that the arts do, it teaches imagination, collaboration, trust, all the values that parents like to teach their children. And actually, if you start early, it's there for life.
When you're playing, we kind of go into another world, and it's an amazing feeling. This is really not about finding the next Yo-Yo Ma, necessarily. Maybe it'll happen, and it'd be great if it happens, but it's really about, it's much more than that. Maybe a small percentage might become musicians, and that would be awesome. I'd love to see someone come out of this program, but they're going to grow up appreciating music. They're going to grow up being, I really think, better human beings, and they'll have an outlet for their creativity, which all kids are born with. I think they're going to be very grateful, later in life, and they'll also come to our concerts,
Matt, I have to say it was really a privilege to be in that classroom watching Yo-Yo Ma and Joshua Bell play, but also watching the students watch them and how they reacted. You could tell that they were just they were fully in. I mean, they were really engaged in everything, and I know that they were really inspired.
You think they might have inspired a couple of students to maybe pick up a violin or future cellists maybe in the crowd? Did you feel that?
I definitely think there was a lot of potential in that room, and I know you play instruments.
I was going to say, I'm not a musician, but I play guitar. I play an instrument, but that's what made me think when I was watching that these kids are performing with these world-renowned musicians. I would be scared. I would feel a little intimidated to do that, right? So I give them all the credit for being able to, or wanting to take part and
having
join
the confidence,
in, and having the confidence, exactly. Well, that is all the time we have for today. So thanks so much for joining us.
See you next time.